okay. Yasi begazela. Tele tushongi klesha sinikiwe. Timita ndazo shabele.
Wow. First panel, huh? Hello again from my side. We have an amazing panel with me and four guys on the stage today. The discussion is about how to foster innovation. Such a broad topic, but we're gonna make it interesting, I hope. We have super interesting people on the stage, and I'm actually just gonna jump right in because our time is limited. So let's maybe just first talk about Kenya because we're here. I have experienced the Kenyan startup and innovation ecosystem now, but only in like a super small, really just like a little layer level. It feels similar to Estonia, but it also has its challenges, right? So let's start with you, Julius. You are a dean at School of Computing and Engineering Sciences at Strathmore University. Wow. Strathmore has connections to Estonia, which I really like, that you have been collaborating already with us. But tell us, what do you think, what supports and what hinders the growth of innovators in Kenya?
Hope the mic's working.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, pleasure to be here and welcome to Nairobi. And so I'm at Strathmore University, as she mentioned, and also been part of the academia in East Africa. So originally I'm from Uganda, and that's why I was teaching in Makerere. I'm an electrical engineer. And well, when you look at the spaces around innovation and how it's being done elsewhere, because we are looking at the advancements in technology over the years and how these are impacting on the lives of people. And you realize that many of the innovations or things that we use could be local solutions or could be outside solutions. But increasingly, we are seeing young people or very many brilliant ideas that are initiated and then fizzle out. Yeah, what is it that could then be hindering many of these things? And the previous speaker on the Brighter really touched on some of the things and how the landscape looks. That's on the really big scale for looking at the startups and those who are accessing funds. But now these are a few of those who could actually get access to pitching and presenting their ideas and knowing where to actually look, yeah, and see how do we get money to then support the different ideas. Many of the other things tend to be from friends who might believe in your idea, and then you're able to start up, put up a product, and then start a business. The other thing is now looking at what then happens next. How do you scale? Yeah, because for many techies, we're very good at what we are doing and looking at how this works, but navigating a funding cycle, looking at how do we interest people, pitching, these are the skills that make you make the next leap. Those are now we find many people are not able to have, and so the need for that support to actually see how you can help those people with brilliant ideas, and even platforms like these that allow them to then have an ability to mingle with others who have been there, done that, and able to then mentor. Yeah, so it's one of those things that you see is kind of multivariate, and we could also go into things like the education systems and how is it structured? Is it looking at getting you employed or getting you to employ yourself? So that also is critical because you find things like critical thinking, design, And so we've seen some changes in the curricula also to align ourselves to see that we are able to produce students who are able to now look at challenges and then produce solutions based on that. I could talk, I could go on for a while, but
Yes, we
let
do
me
have.
not take the mic from the rest. Thanks.
Yes, we have actually many Strathmore University students here today as well. And I think in innovation, universities also play a huge role. So I think Strathmore is doing amazing job on that. But Üllar, you are Estonian, as me. And you actually, and Estonia has known for its digital government. And you have been helping a lot of governments and built up companies. And I'm just like wondering, what do you think are some of the examples to implement on an international level that come from our, like your own experience and Estonian experience so that the innovation can grow? Like what are some of the things that we can take from there?
Thank you, Liisi. Good morning, everyone. Now that's not sufficient. Good morning, everyone. Much better. I think the one thing that we can take from the multiple successful countries and projects is the attitude. I think if you ask about the most important question for innovation, what it would be for you? For me, it's the most important question is why not? Do you understand the question? Why not? I think there are multiple people around the governments and enterprises who will say you, why not? But in Estonia and other countries where we've seen the change, the attitude is, why not? I think that from that it always starts this question. And I think the question why, if you have enough people in the room who are actually talking about why we do something, why we innovate something, why we do like we used to do, the most important question is why. And now when we, with our company Digital Nation, we are digital advisors for digital societies, then I think the worst thing what countries can do is the copy-paste. Estonia in the beginning of the 90s was told a lot of experience from the already established countries. We had nothing, no money, no technologies, no legacy systems. And there was one bright person who said to inspire whole government, if we always are going to copy, we always will be followers. In order to copy something, something must have been done already. But how you can innovate if you copy? Copy with paste is okay if you need efficiency, but if you really need to innovate. And I think the other thing is the crossroads, where we see where the governments and enterprises are building the crossroads of cultures, ideas, people. The innovation usually happens at the crossroads of the disciplines, crossroads of the people and stories. That's the reason why I would like to welcome my third son, Uku, here. Uku, he's in the back row there. I brought him here for a special reason, to really make sure that we have nowadays the digital bridges and making the crossroads of those. I think the innovation starts from there. But in digital societies, there are three fundamentals no country can escape. I think in Estonia, we have learned that in the hard way. One is the identity. You must have your digital identity, the unique, secure, because as a citizen, you have rights. As a consumer, you have rights. In order to represent your rights, you have to first prove it's you. And everybody who serves you must be sure that's you. The second thing is interoperability. And I'm really happy to see how Estonia and Kenyan government are here working together by starting the potential project here for the interoperability also in Kenya here, to make sure that the decentralized innovation hubs can still talk to each other on the secure digital way. Because data is needed for innovation, that's for sure. And the third thing is the integrity. It means that you can trust what you see, that the policies. And for us in Estonia, and we see now countries already going to that in the more countries in Europe, is that the citizen is the only owner of data. You can give a lot of rights to other institutions, governments to use it, but if you don't have the private user of data or the private owner of data, we always discuss too long about this, data privacies. Make sure that there's a crowd control over that. Therefore, for me, the learnings are start from the attitude, build crossroads, and build the three fundamentals of digital society, and then you see what could happen.
And we think that it's super easy because we have done it, you know, in Estonia. So we're really, actually it is like really cool that 99% of our services in Estonia are online. And as Caleb said, the only thing you can't do is, get divorced yet online, which is great. But yeah, exactly. We have actually now over 100,000 e-residents as well in Estonia. But talking about regulations, Kenneth, you're a lawyer in intellectual property and technology and have advised governments of Uganda and doing so many other things. So I would like to ask from you, in your perspective, what do you think is lacking in the regulations and what could be improved towards supporting innovation? So like a very broad question.
Liisi, that's a very good question. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this panel. And so I'll jump right into that question. What's missing through policy and regulation? First of all, I'll say that there is Hans Kelsen, for those of you that are interested in that or in such schools of thought, says that laws reflect the nature of society and of man. And as such, if we're looking at innovation, especially with the example that you've mentioned, if you have 90% of people in line, that means the laws that you have should be congruent with that number and should also be conducive for people to continue to operate in that particular environment. And so I would think that in the context of East Africa, we have many laws, especially looking at the tech space, looking at innovation generally, but having those laws implemented to have these government officials, first of all, be able to make them easier for companies that want to come in and join. That's still something I feel that we still have a bit to go in terms of making sure that these laws work for the industries within which they operate. Let me give you an example. Laws like data protection, for example. He spoke about data protection and privacy. And as you know, every African country, or no, every East African country at least, has a data protection and privacy law. But our laws are mirrored against the GDPR in Europe. Now, that can be a good thing and a bad thing, because if you import these laws exactly as they are, then you have, you may instead start creating bottlenecks for companies to comply with these laws. Because one of the issues that we're facing now in the world of data protection and privacy is that, there's that annoying thing of having to click accept. It is the only website that you go for. And for anyone here, you'll see that any website that you go on now, you have to either click, I consent, manage preferences. It takes a long time. And so ultimately, the question is, if a business is trying to make it easier for someone to access services, especially for a market like Kenya, like Uganda, like Tanzania, do we need such stringent regulations? Can we make them flexible in a way that perhaps allow an industry to be able to grow before they can reach at that particular level? So I think that is one area. The second area is, of course, ultimately, the more you have regulations in certain spaces, the more difficult it is for companies to be able to get into the market. So let's look at the fintech market. Everyone here, whenever we talk about payments, we always talk about financial inclusion. But if you go look at the requirements for a fintech company to be able to set up in Kenya, in Uganda, in Tanzania, or any other jurisdiction within East Africa, you will see that the requirements are still a bit stringent in the sense that only a few companies will be able to do that. And so you find that you'll have an influx of foreign companies coming in to invest, and you have fewer homegrown companies. And that's a bad thing, especially if you're trying to push local content. So again, regulation there may be on the downside in terms of being able to spur these companies to be able to grow, especially homegrown companies overall. The previous speaker mentioned the companies that are in ride-hailing, and Safe Border was a very good example. Safe Border started in Uganda. We're very proud of that. It came to Kenya, it came to Nigeria, but they had to close shop in Kenya. And I'd like to think part of those reasons were still due to the regulatory environment at that time. I think now maybe things are easier, maybe because there were changes in that regard. But overall, companies like that have missed out on this particular market, again, because of a few bottlenecks when it comes to regulation. So I feel, although regulation is important, we have to have a balance, especially with the markets that we operate. I think our main focus should be being able to inspire companies, being able to have a conducive environment, sandbox environments that allow companies to be able to live test and operate in our markets in a manner that has oversight, but generally allows them to be able to grow, gives them incentives like tax, all these things that make a company or that will make a company grow to where it's supposed to be.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like you can't put regulations in a way that it's always the same, but always kind of adapting. So it's really, really great. Nikola, finally, your time. You are the director of startups at Infobip. It is the global communications platform for businesses and developers, and you're already in 12 African countries, which is more than Google has offices here, which is wow, impressive. You work a lot with startups, help them, mentor them, and so on, Infobip as well. So what's your opinion on the private sector? And also, let's try to look at from the founder's perspective. How can the private sector give back to the entrepreneurs who are getting started and how to do it?
Because I don't have a collar on mine, that's why it doesn't work. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, first of all. It's always good to be back in Nairobi. I'm neither Estonian nor East African. I'm Croatian. I don't know how many of you here follow football. Does anyone follow football? So you guys know Croatia, right? We are like Estonia in tech. We're punching ball or waiting football, at least something, Basically, yeah, Infobip has been present in Africa. I'm sure all of you used our products today, so every time you get an SMS or a voice call or a WhatsApp notification from your Bolt or your bank or something like this, that's usually us. That's how it looks in real terms. It's a technology that is necessary. It's a communication layer for all businesses, that's kind of there, and all businesses are going digital, governments are going digital, academia is going digital, lawyers are going digital as well. So hopefully, like everyone at some point needs this communication layer for their businesses. It can be like multi-layered and different steps in between, but basically this is what we provide. We're very global, and then as Liisi said, we do rightfully so gamble on Africa as well. We have a lot of offices around the world, including Southeast Asia, Latin America, obviously Europe and the US. But for us, Africa, all these offices now, we have presence in all these countries. Not many tech companies go to. Two reasons. One reason is we wanted to be first there because we see a lot of potential as a global company. And it's often disregarded by, let's say, like big US or European companies. And second of all, like, basically, we can reach 7 billion people with our technology. So like anyone in all these countries as well, in East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, we have basically presence, and we have potential customers of customers and so on. So basically, wherever there is a mobile phone or some kind of digital presence, actually, we can reach, right? So the private sector, I don't know. I'm trying to see where to start. I'll try to be very, very brief with the backstory of Infobip. So Infobip is one of the few bootstrapped unicorns in the world. In Croatia, we only have a couple of them. We're still catching up there, but it's still a small country, slightly bigger than Estonia. But Infobip is bootstrapped in terms because when the founders started the company about 15 years ago, they didn't know they can raise money, right? I think they raised from their parents like $20,000 or something, and the town where Infobip is founded is like 3,000 inhabitants. And the company now says 4,000 people. And this is a story I always usually tell to students and like younger audiences to motivate them a little bit, to tell them that you can really make a company out of anywhere. You can really make a global company, a market leader out of anywhere. And it's harder if you're somewhere as opposed to else, one place as opposed to another place. If you're in Silicon Valley where you have investors in every corner, I'm sure it's easier to raise money than if you are in Kenya or Croatia or Indonesia, maybe. Although some of those places are getting much, much better now with a lot of capital pouring in. And the private sector here is crucial. And I say this as someone who comes originally from the public sector. So, and funnily enough, then I started working in tech in the public sector. But the private sector is something that drives. And to Kenneth's point about regulation, it's very hard for regulators. You have to follow and you have to enable, but then you also have to protect at the same time. So that's something, no matter what industry, but you definitely want to create not an obstacle environment for the private sector to thrive. And then you want to create like a lot of competition, a lot of happening, a lot of buzz around events like this. Grassroots communities, basically anyone that's actually contributing to the ecosystem. And this is when I say magic starts happening. And then and there's almost a tipping point. And there's, if you look at some successful stories, there's a timeline and there is like crucial in points or crucial, I don't know how to call them, like elements in this timeline that were turning points in some way. I'm pretty sure in Estonia there would be Skype or something that often Estonians refer to as the first unicorn. But then that's not enough. It's not enough to have one unicorn and now we made it. You know, now we don't have to make it anymore, or 2 unicorns or 3 unicorns. That's just the beginning. And not to get too much into political philosophy or anything, by far the best part of capitalism for me is competition, right? So this is what drives you to actually be better and create new solutions and compete. And in terms of, yeah, to your point also being, it's a beautiful big world still. So you really, really cannot just replicate stuff. And we can see we have some solutions that were applicable around the world and kind of work, but then you also have some same solutions where don't work elsewhere. And it can be ride hailing, can be, you know, digital banking, etc. And you really, really have to boost this. This is what we're trying to do with startups. We really, really try to support startups. We are an enterprise company. To be perfectly honest with the audience here, we get the revenues from the enterprise, from the big companies. But supporting the startup ecosystem is crucial. It's crucial because it's a long-term investment, and no matter how you support it. This can be investment, it can be, you know, organizing events, this can be organizing meetups, this can be obviously raising money, capital, bringing capital to a place. That's very important. But this will actually bring, it's a long-term bet that are actually, you can always do it better or worse. So there's some good and bad examples, of course, but you always want to actually create a healthy ecosystem that are thriving. And then once you reach this tipping point, then it's almost like a virtuous circle that starts building by itself, or actually moving by itself. And then hopefully the regulation comes in line. Then hopefully the academia realizes as well. And then you have to support also those aspects as well. So it's kind of a concentrated effort by everyone. Yeah, so if we can help anyhow startups, we always try to. We really try to go above and beyond. This is not something what I'm just saying. We try to connect them to investors. We try to give them our products. We try to invite them to events as well, like the dean did here for his students. Are they getting extra credit for coming here? Yeah, but basically that's the idea. So we really, the private sector is important. It's not exclusively important. I really want to make that point out, because without academia, you have no talent after all, and then you have to work very, very close. I can go on forever, but it's better.
Yeah. This guy speaks a lot. I've seen it before. Thank you so much, Nico. So we have actually seen like very different parts here. We don't have founders here right now. And we understand that university is important to foster innovation because of students. They are like the next, you know, generation of founders. Then regulations is important because they need to be able to do things that they want and really just, you know, communicate that and really, yeah, legal advice as well, exactly. And then I actually said in the call to Nico that corporations are important, but yeah, like private sector and big companies who are giving back to the community are crucial, I would say. And also governments and like digital advising of like governments and what they're doing. Or do you want to add something, Üllar?
Yeah, I want to add to that. It's we talk about the secret sauce, what happened in Estonia, and by good chance, with my age, I had an opportunity to live through it and see it. Yeah. First of all, we had really good neighbors. If you look at the Scandinavian countries, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, they were actually very early in the startup game. Angry Birds. Everybody was playing that once upon a time. Yeah. But nowadays, you don't have to limit yourself with your physical neighbors. Yes. You can pick up your mental neighbors. And I think this kind is something, and this is where the combination between the universities, public sector, private sector, startup sector, if all those four together will select their mental neighbors, the business models, the role models, the peer pressure, you can accomplish a lot. And innovation very often is spoken outside of Estonia as a technology country. We have maybe 2 or 3 technologies created during the last 20 years who have been critical for the success. Most of them have been adapted technologies. I think the innovation has been on the business model, operation model, value sets, and a few other things than this one. And I think in Africa, I hear very often, very fairly, don't leave anyone behind. It's absolutely fair point. But for startup economy, I think the startup economy should put another sentence here, don't hold anyone back. And I think this is something what we need also with the universities, governments, and the legal system enabling legal environment. And also Africa is building digital single market. The one thing what I see, we also work with the Smart Africa organization on the Trust Alliance concept. It means how you build this interoperability between the countries, not inside the countries, but even more important, how you build Africa as a digital single market, but not as a digital single island.
Okay.
What are the bridges towards other parts of the world? E-invoicing, identities, logistics, technological standards. I think this enabling standardization will create for the startups a boosting environment here, and then it will be easier for them to jump out to the next continents. We haven't seen any unicorn from Africa to outside, only inside. I think you miss those value sets and standard sets, make this digital single island to be connected to the digital world. And therefore we say digital nation is the one nation in the world. Like Vikings, it's not the nation, it's a profession. Innovation is a profession, not a nation. And let's pick up our mental neighbors.
Nice. I think this giving back to community is like one of the main things. So maybe just to like, we'll kind of have to wrap it up, but I want to ask like a personal question. How do you personally, each of you, foster innovation today? Like what are you doing in your, like university or in your organization, but also personally? Are you helping founders or what's up? Julius, go ahead.
We were joking outside. Then we have to bang the mic 3 times to make sure it's working. Yeah, so I would say, looking back on just my childhood and how I entered the tech space, you have to have some models who you aspire to be like and see if they can enter the tech space, because it's one of those things that are very, I'll say in Africa, it's very hard to enter an engineering school or enter medical, because you have to really score pretty high marks to get into the university. So that alone is something, but you need people who tell you you are able to do it, yeah? And so that is very critical for the young people, to find mentors who can then encourage them along this road. And I think this is one of the good events where we're seeing the ability to have that mix. And so for my students, I really challenge them to see, when we are looking at particular projects or anything that we're giving them in class, you're trying to see, okay, this is very good, it's working. Can you put a business case to this particular project that you're doing, such that you're able then to see how you then commercialize? So stop thinking about the solution, but can you also think about, how would I go about making this a product to then go out and sell? So that's a different skill set that you now have to see, I do not have, and then accept, and then see, where can I get that skill? And so if my friends have it, then I have to reach out and then find out who can help me push this out there. And that's something that in this space we need a lot of help with. And also that's really where we need to see, how do we support that kind of environment for the young people to see that they're able to have, we can see the next unicorns coming out of those. Mm-hmm. Not to mention the legal and other environments that they can speak to.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Lao Tzu, the famous Chinese philosopher, says, knowing others is wisdom, knowing yourself is enlightenment. So for me, I feel my contribution is teaching. I love to teach. Like Julius, I teach intellectual property and cyber law. And so I find that this is a really good way to be able to impart the knowledge that I have, and also to be able to share and build an ecosystem. Away from that, I also chair the Technology Committee of East Africa Law Society. So we are very keen on being able to give these skills to lawyers so that startups can have legal advisors. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I really enjoy panels like this, where we say, look, let's link people up to innovators, let's link people up to financiers, but let's also link them up to lawyers, because many businesses fail because they don't have legal support at the time that they're starting. How do you structure your business that makes it possible for you to be able to take in funding when you're going to scale up? So things like this, we find that having events like these are a really good way to be able to teach The legal profession is very different from, let's say, the medical profession, where if you go to a doctor to go for surgery, you may not know what the doctor has done. What you're waiting for is just to feel better. But in this particular space, if you go to a lawyer, be able to find out exactly, understand why, understand the advice that the lawyer is giving you, and see exactly how that can be imparted in your business. So I feel that for me, that would be the contribution, to be able to have businesses get legal support, but also to have advocacy on the policy side, to have regulations and policies that can be able to spur and can be able to push and can be able to support the innovation ecosystem.
Nice. It's a big contribution. Nico, it's like 1 minute.
Yes, very briefly. Well, we spoke on the business side, on the work side, but on the personal side, I mean, it's combined, but we always try to work with. It's the longest shot gamble, but it's, I think, the most rewarding one. We're working with young people, so we work with. Whenever I have an opportunity to go to, high school, university students, push them outside of their comfort zone and tell them like, oh, this is all the stuff that you can do. At least where I come from, it's very separated, academia and the business. At least it used to be when I was coming out of school, and we didn't have that. So I think this support is crucial, because as you get older, you see that the next generation is actually the one changing the world, and you always have to think of them. So we're trying. That's my
Nice.
moment of inspiration.
I love it.
So-
I love it. Üllar.
My personal contribution is wake up early and go sleep later, and travel as much as possible to be a pain in the stagnation. I think when we're going in, we usually, what we do is we just ask very ruthlessly, why? And the other thing we say, if we, with 1 million people in such a cold weather like -16, could do it, then you can do it better, believe me. Maybe much better. And that's our dream. Our digital nation company dream is to build on a country what will succeed Estonia at least 3 times. And we are very positive and hopeful on that.
Nice ending for that panel. Thank you so much. It was super interesting for me. I hope for you as well. And I think we can all do something every day to foster innovation and, help others and really inspire them to do better. So yeah, thank you so much. And they will stick around, so you can definitely already use their knowledge and help. Thank you.